Welcome to Let's Talk About It with Amy Schreiber, where we talk about life's journey, the real estate market, and everything in between. I am your host, Amy Schreiber. I'm a local realtor in the state of Florida, servicing the Tampa Bay area. I'm joined by my co-host, Katie Easling. Katie, what are we talking about today?
Well, just to recap from last week, you talked last week about giving up on your dream, a really, really important one that was potentially going to lead you into a professional career of singing, and how giving up on that dream kind of defined you. And today I think we're going to talk about, and I really want to hear this story about how that sort of 5 to 7 years after you gave up your dream, what happened during that time, and then what kind of led you from being a high school dropout, which we talked about in our first episode, to beginning to climb that corporate ladder.
Yeah, that's a great question. I started out in the hotel industry. As I started building more maturity and gaining more responsibility, so I worked in the hotel industry. I loved it. That's where I really felt connected to people, right? And it really just gave me a good sense of purpose. And it's funny, full circle. That's what I'm doing now, right? With real estate and working with others and guiding them home, as we say. I enjoyed the hotel industry. I started out as a front desk clerk and was then promoted to front desk manager. And I think my normal shift was like 3 to 11, and I loved it, right? I loved meeting new people and just taking care of them and servicing them, right? I've always had a servant's heart. Anyways, then we started a family. And at that point, I was like, okay, I am the breadwinner. So how can I support my family? Right. And it was also, what are the hours? I can't work 3 to 11 with an infant. So I remember on my maternity leave, I did look for other opportunities because I wanted a day job. I wanted something, 8 to 4, 9 to 5, whatever it is. I wanted something with benefits. I needed benefits, right? For, an infant and obviously, family. So yeah, I was able to obtain a role in a small uniform company or manufacturing company in Seminole, Florida. It is owned by a great family. And I started out as a client service representative. And I think within weeks, maybe a few weeks, I was then promoted to executive client service, which really had less calls coming in. And you worked with and serviced larger clients, right? And kind of reviewed, where they stood from an inventory perspective, because this was a uniform manufacturer. So, it was all about clothes, uniforms. I really enjoyed what I did. And again, that goes back to service, right? And clients. And so I really, really enjoyed that.
I love it. And I know, because you and I have talked about this before, you worked a lot of roles in that company. Can you tell us a little bit about how you began your ascent in that industry?
Absolutely. So, as I said, started out as that service rep and then executive. And it was interesting. I I think maybe 7, 8 months in, maybe a year. I was then asked, after, doing a great job doing what I was doing, I was then asked to support from a client service perspective a new division that they had acquired. It was a new
Cool.
division out of the state of Oregon. Yeah. And so that was like amazing. I felt so good, right? They were like, okay, we could trust Amy with this, right? And so yeah, I really leveraged and worked closely with marketing and Brian and the executive team. And, it was so interesting to learn more about the business because I was that service person for the division. right? So that was critical. I was learning about production and, you know, time frames, you know, communicating back and forth. Again, that's where I think I really started. If I'm thinking back now, where I started really honing in on my communication skills, right? Because as we know, we don't work in the same state.
Right. Yes.
And at that time, it was, you know, they were in Oregon, I'm in Florida, and you have to communicate really well.
Yes.
And yeah, and so, and again, you have to work with so many different types of people in different positions, some who are really analytical and aren't really, you know, they're like this focused and, you know, not maybe the nicest people. But you had to be okay with that, right? So I
Yeah.
really started kind of building my experience on understanding the differences in people and how I could adapt to that. And just really servicing this new division of ours. And it was successful and would then. At another point in time, maybe next week's episode, we'll talk about the other few positions that I held later on in my, I don't know, 5, 6 years there.
I'm excited to hear about it. But right now, so you had a young family, a new
Yes.
baby, you were working 55 plus hours a week, and you made a decision education wise that I don't know that anyone that I know would have made. Can you tell us a little bit about that and tell us maybe about how the company, if did they support you in that? Like what happened there?
Yeah, I am so grateful. I've been blessed throughout my career. And so I think that that last experience, right? Really them giving me the trust in managing a new division from a service perspective. I really started thinking about how can I be more? How can I, you know, be better? And it went back to education. I remember, and again, I had a heavy load.
Good.
And we all know I'm a high school dropout. So,
Yes.
you know, but I knew I needed to do more. I knew there was something more for me. And we would find that out way later. But this company really, I think, started my path to my success. I went into my manager's office, Valerie, I asked her, hey, do you think the company would pay for my education? I'd like to go back, or I'd like to go
Yes.
and obtain my associates and in business, of course. And, you know, she was like, well, let me talk to Peter about it, who was our executive for service. And they came back, I want to say almost immediately, and were like, yeah, we will pay for your education. And it's funny because that was so way back then. Online was not a thing. We did have computers. I think, yeah, yes, we had computers, but online classes were not a thing. So, along with 55-hour work weeks, raising a baby, and of course, I had support with that, right? But, and then going to school, and you had to physically go to school. I think I went to school 2 times a week. So, it was a lot for me to do while
Yes.
managing my role in the company, right? And also, you know, eventually even moving up further, right? It was a lot to take on, but when you are motivated and you really want something, you're going to make it happen, right?
Yes.
And I, yeah, so it was just, it was a long, tough journey. I'm not going to say it was easy. But it was a starting point in my education over, it took me 18 years to get my MBA. So and here's the thing too, high school dropout to getting now my associates because I'm more responsible and you know I've got goals and I'm going to meet them. I actually had to take I think I had to take all 4 core classes before I could even start working towards my degree. So
I didn't know
that
that you did that.
yeah, so when I went, I remember going to the college and, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to have an associate in business. And they were like, okay, take a test because you have to take a test and see where you land.
Yeah.
I did that and it came back. I failed all four. So I had to take those classes and pass them, four classes, in order to begin my associate's degree. So I mean, I could have not done that, right? And been disappointed and maybe, well, it's not worth it, but it was worth it to me. And I'm so thankful and grateful for Superior Uniform Group. They've since changed their names, but I don't know what it is. But for giving me that opportunity because they are part of my success.
I love it. And your family had to be so proud as well. Like, what an incredible accomplishment for you to be a young mama and getting that degree.
They were. Um, yes. Yeah. I mean, it's huge, and it really, it validates you can be someone, right? When you're younger and learn and grow, be better and reach the mountain, right? That you've set your sights on with hard work. So yeah. Um, sorry, I'm
Beautiful.
thinking about my mom.
I can't wait to hear more of your and her story.
Yeah, she was amazing. But anyways, so yes, so I'm super grateful, and yes, my family is proud, and they would continue to be proud, and that makes you feel good, right?
Absolutely does.
Yeah, yeah. Coming from I think someone who a lot of people thought wasn't gonna be anything, right? Um, to starting to build a successful career along with education. And I'm not saying everybody has to go to school, right, or to college or or get a degree. For me, that was important, and I think one of the most important reasons why is because I was the first to graduate college in my family. So it's big. I'm grateful. A lot of hard work.
Well, I am very grateful to you for sharing. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I cannot wait to hear more of next week's story where we delve even deeper into your career with the uniform company and we start talking about some even harder
Ah,
subjects.
God, what has this podcast turned into? I know when I thought about creating this podcast, and you have helped since we've been together. I really wanted to share my story. Not that I'm anybody special, but I think it's great to share our lessons from our mistakes. So that way, someone else who may be experiencing the same thing or something different, but it translates, can maybe not make that same mistake. Or maybe if they're losing hope or if they don't like their job or what have you and they feel stuck, there's always a way out. Sometimes it takes longer than others to get out, but with the right support system, with the right belief, right? Because it's about mindset too. Mindset is and I didn't realize this till like years later. Mindset is huge, right? That positivity, that belief is huge in order to achieve what I've set out to achieve, what others have set out to achieve. So I think, we just want to share. We just want to share stories to hopefully prevent or someone from making a mistake. So yes, next week is going to be amazing. I am going to share more. I'm sure I'll freaking cry too. But yeah, more about my time at the uniform company, the good and the bad, the sad. But yeah, I am grateful. So next week.
Next week. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you again for sharing your story today.
Absolutely.